Greetings. Thank you so much for joining me today for our Discover and Sketch Waterfowl workshop. So what are we doing today? Well, we're going to cover the main waterfowl families. There's actually 4 of them. We're going to learn some tips for sketching them. So the same tips you need to use for observing and identifying are the same things that help you to sketch with more ease and accuracy and speed. Then we're going to give you some tips for field sketching. Then we're going to do some sketching practice, some quick sketching, step by step of some various species. And then I'm going to share with you some videos I took the other day of ducks and geese, and we're going to practice field sketching. So I really love field sketching, and this is the kind of thing I'm talking about, just light and loose. These are some deer I did the other day, just to give you an example of the types of kind of the style. Here's some robins I did the other day. So this kind of style, and then some squirrels. So that kind of quick style, and I'm going to be sketching along with you with those. Okay, and then again, there's the detail drawing session and some other bonuses on the bonus page for those who upgrade. Okay, so let me make this bigger. You don't need to see me. Alrighty, so there's 4 primary families. Sorry, I'm going to cough here. Fighting a cold this winter. 4 primary families: the loons, the grebes, the coots, and then the ducks. And we're really going to focus on the ducks because those are the most numerous and cosmopolitan. Of course, there's a lot of waterfowl or water-associated birds that we're not going to cover. Of course, every bird needs to go to water to drink, but some are more associated with water than others. So we're not going to cover, marine birds like albatross and gulls and pelicans. We're not covering shore and wading birds that you might see at the beach, or wetland birds that are usually also what are called upland birds that are usually on the ground, or stream birds like this beautiful dipper that I illustrated, one of my favorite local birds. But of course, the things we're covering in terms of learning to notice field marks and how to do quick sketching, that applies to all of those guys as well. Okay, so why am I doing this workshop now? Oh, why am I doing this workshop now? This is winter if you're watching live, and winter is a great time to observe. Of course, it can be quite cold and your fingers can get cold. But again, I've got some tip videos for those who upgrade. But basically, there are a lot of waterfowl that are most social and congregate in big groups in the wintertime and in the northern, the lower 48. Because a lot of these birds, they do migrate far, far north, like the loons, way up to Alaska and Canada. And so anyway, the wintertime is when the birds are in the greatest groupings on your local lakes and ponds and rivers and creeks. And so that's the best time to really see them. And when there's mixed flocks, you get to really practice dividing them up and figuring out who's who based on their field marks. Again, if you're in the chat box, I'd love to know as we go through our slideshow for your live viewers, which of these types of birds you've seen, which you want to see, that kind of thing. Okay, so we're going to start with the basic anatomy to notice for both identifying and sketching. And I did want to mention before I get any farther that I really suggest you download the free app called Merlin. It comes from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, which I've been lucky to visit in Ithaca, New York. And they have this free app on your phone, and it's very cool. It is divided up by taxonomy. So it starts like with the geese, which are kind of the more primitive groups. And so it's really cool to be able to identify and also to sketch and to listen to their calls. So can you hear that? That's the wood duck. Yeah, and Karen says it's a very good app. Right. So I really suggest you do this, and it shows pictures between the males and the females and all of that. So you download the free app, and then depending on where you are in the world, you download the pack of birds for that region so that you'll have them offline. Because a lot of times when you're out hiking or traveling internationally, you might not have cell service. And so this can be downloadable. And then what I do is when I'm out in the field and I have identified something, I'll take a screenshot of the species I've identified and I'll make a little folder on my phone to go back through. But another wonderful thing they have is the sound ID. And so you can actually put your phone up to the sky or towards the lake, and it will help pick out the species. Now, the species we're talking about today don't have as characteristic of sounds as, say, songbirds. They don't have as great a diversity of in their voice box, but it is still possible, and it's really cool when the app will show all the birds that are calling or singing if it's a songbird, and so you can also get to know their sonogram. Karen says you can record their calls and it's ID them. Yes. Also, if you really practice sketching, it's kind of fun if you don't know the species of bird and you don't have your phone. You can practice sketching a bird, and I have actually uploaded that and that picture, and sometimes the app can identify it from that, which is really cool. Anyway, let's go back here. So yeah, so there's lots of things to identify. And as you probably know, if you followed me for long, that I really focus a lot on physical characteristics and behaviors of animals, really understanding them inside and out so that you can really understand them and sketch them more accurately. So most people just jump right in to most people just jump right into sketching something before they've really taken the time to observe it well enough. So anyway, there's things that are called field marks. So that's their colors, their patterns, their sizes, their silhouettes, and especially their heads. Because often, of course, waterfowl are sitting in the water. You can't necessarily see their whole body. But if you look at their head, especially their bill shape and their eye color, and then the patterns on their back, and sometimes their tail, like the long-tailed duck has a really long tail. Those are all those field marks. But also behavior. Notice if they get in and out of the water. Some types of waterfowl actually can't walk on land, just like we'll talk about in a bit. And notice how they swim and how they fly. Also notice their sound. Some of them have various sounds they make when they're taking off or when they're landing, and contact calls, and of course, different kinds of calls during the breeding season. And again, that's where these free apps like the Merlin app come in really handy. And so, yeah. So again, they're not songbirds, so they don't have quite as diverse of a repertoire of sounds, but they still do have sounds. And then noticing their habitats and their microhabitats. So some kind of waterfowl are only on smaller creeks and streams, kind of like those dippers I had mentioned. But most kind of duck-like waterfowl are on a little bit bigger ponds. Although I've seen a lot of waterfowl even in irrigation ditches when I'm hiking with the dogs along the irrigation ditch. They'll be there, especially if there isn't much water other places that time of year. But naturally, you're going to want to notice, are they in a smaller pond or a larger lake? Like often the beautiful elusive loons are only on big northern lakes, like in Minnesota. or bigger rivers like we have here in Central Oregon, the Deschutes and the Rogue River, which I'm going to go visit next week. Yeah, noticing that. And then also their microhabitats. So within that area. So some waterfowl are characteristically going to be out in the middle where it's deeper. Some are going to be more in the shallows or even hiding out in the reeds, like the relatives of the coots, like the rails, are very elusive and hiding out in the reels and quite camouflaged. So noticing all of those things. And we'll show lots of pictures coming up that you'll see a lot of the field marks and the head and bill and tail. And then when we go over the videos that I shot for you locally here in the field, we'll see a bit of their behavior. And so, yeah, I hope you've gathered some sketching materials. I've got my sketchbook here and some pencils. But even if you're watching from, a car, or you're driving, that's okay. You can still get a lot out of just watching the demos when we do those. All righty, so let's keep going here. Okay, so again, more field marks to notice when sketching. Sorry, I never know where my mouse is because I have two different screens. So sometimes my mouse is on the big screen, sometimes it's on the smaller one. So here's an example just to give you a tell. So this is the northern pintail. You see it's got a long tail. And in your bonus resources, if you upgrade, I have a whole workshop on drawing this one. But these are the kind of things you're going to notice as a bird watcher. You're going to want to notice that the bill is blue-gray, but on the top it has this black stripe. You'll notice it's got this chocolate brown head. And, when you're observing wildlife, you don't want to just say, oh, its head is brown or red or blue or white. The more you can be more specific, like chocolate brown, the better. And it also helps to say these field marks out loud because it really helps, the more you are using various parts of your brain, like the speaking, the hearing, the writing and the drawing and the watching, the more it's going to cement that observation into your mind. And so again, as you're watching, live viewers, again, tell me if you've seen these birds that we're going to be showing. I've got a lot of slides for you. So again, this is the northern pintail. Also notice it's got a slender neck and body. And the birds, of course, they can change their neck shape quite a bit. If they're actively swimming and looking around, it's going to look nice and long like this. But when they're resting, they're going to bring that head back here and the neck will look a lot shorter. And then sometimes they'll even tuck their bill under their coverts when they're sleeping, and they'll look like just a lump and they won't even look like a bird. So anyway, that's really variable, is that length of the neck for any bird as it's behaving. All righty, and then you've got your white breast, belly, and neck stripe. You've got the vermiculated gray flanks. So that just means that there's kind of black and white here. And then these elongated scapulars and tertials, and then a really long tail, especially the two central tail feathers. So that's just an example. We're not going to be doing that for the other birds. Just an example of the kind of things you want to key in on when you're identifying a bird. And so here, I'm going to have a few slides of ducks, the mallard duck, that is, because it is the most common and widespread. You're generally going to see these guys. I do have an entire course called Sketching Backyard Birds for Beginners. So we're not going to go into a whole lot of detail today, but again, just thinking about the things you want to notice and study in the future. So on the head, you've got the crown, the eye, the bill, you've got this like pointy part called the nail or a bean, and then the nostrils that you can see in ducks. Most songbirds and most birds, you can't see the nostril, but these guys you can. It's not covered. And then the ear is covered under feathers. And they have this big fat cheek. You can't see from this angle, but we'll see in the live videos. They've got these really fat cheeks, like are almost like a chipmunk who's put a lot of peanuts in their mouth. And then for the mallard, it's got this ring around the neck. They've got this big breast, which of course a lot of waterfowl are hunted for food. So they do have some meat on them. And then their keel, just like the keel of a boat. You've got all these coverts, they're called, which are smaller feathers that are covering the longer flight feathers that they actually use to fly with. And then there are some differences, of course, in sexes with the coloration and these cute little feathers here in the male. This bird, the mallard, has what's called a speculum, and we'll see a better picture of that soon. Then their abdomen and their thigh and their foot. We'll see more pictures of those. Okay. And so here you can kind of see these feather groupings, but I don't want you to get overwhelmed. A lot of people are really intimidated about drawing birds, and I certainly was when I first became a bird watcher about 15 years ago, and when I first got a really good pair of binoculars, which are helpful. But you don't need to do that. You don't need to worry about all that because most waterfowl you can sketch and identify just by their basic silhouettes, and then just noting a few of those interesting field marks. So you don't have to get worried about getting in the weeds with all the names of all these parts. But anyway, here you can see that beautiful bright blue set of feathers called the speculum. And you can always buy some identification books to help you go out in the field, in addition to having the Merlin app. And so Sibley, of course, David Allen Sibley, I really respect because he's not only an author and a bird watcher, but he's an artist as well. So he's drawn these beautiful illustrations. So this can help you as well. Because sometimes it does help to know these kind of groupings, these names of the groupings of feathers, because often that whole group will be a certain color. Okay, like the crown might be one color and the cheek might be a different color. And here's this cute mallard again. So some of the ducks can walk and get out of water and some can't. And you want to also notice their feet. Most of the waterfowl have 3 toes in the front that are webbed to different degrees because they do spend a lot of their time in the water, so they need to swim. So those are like their scuba fins. But they do have a 4th claw in the back. Now, most songbirds that are perching have a longer claw that they're actually wrapping around the back of a branch to help them hold on. But the waterfowl definitely have a smaller one. But they do have claws on all of their toes, just like songbirds. And you're going to see different coloration, different field marks when you watch a bird fly. So the longer you are out in the field watching them doing their different behaviors, the more you'll see them in different positions. Like in this case, the speculum, that bright, beautiful, iridescent blue set of feathers looks different and larger when they're flying or landing or taking off than when they're just sitting with their wings folded. And here's another picture. Beautiful picture. Beautiful, beautiful. A lot of the ducks, like the mallards, have some parts that are quite iridescent, sort of like a hummingbird. So sometimes they will look just black, like the head might look just black. And if the sun is shining on it just right, you'll get that beautiful iridescence. And those iridescent colors are generally in the males, just like in hummingbirds, and they help to advertise to the females how healthy they are. Because if you've got healthy feathers, you've got a healthy body, and you're probably going to leave healthier offspring. Okay, so as I mentioned, females are more subtle, but they are the same shape as the males. So here's examples of two closely related species. The hooded merganser, which has this big triangular hood, and in the male, it's very colorful. And the common merganser looks different. So just notice that. So often you can watch, again, if you're patient in watching the birds out in the field, that you will see a more obvious male, and then really notice the drabber females near them, and then get used to identifying her while she's next to her partner or in her same species flock, so that when you see them separately, you'll still be able to identify them. That's the key to identifying the females. Although sometimes there are mixed flocks, so you can get a little bit confused. But again, the longer you watch, observe, and of course sketch, the better you'll get. So again, the females generally have the same silhouette as their male counterpart compared to another closely related species. So yeah, you don't want to rely too heavily on field marks, because of course they do change over the year. And something I forgot to mention, another reason that observing waterfowl in the winter time is a good time is because all of them are adults. And so you don't have to worry about trying to identify juveniles and ones that are kind of halfway into their adult breeding plumage. So if you can get used to identifying the adults and the males versus females, then as we go into the spring and summer and they're breeding, if you live in a location where they're breeding, then you can put that on top of your skill set, is learning how they look. Okay, when they're breeding. All righty, let's keep going here. Okay, and then when the birds are swimming, remember that about half of their body is underwater. So they're kind of like an iceberg, but not quite as different. But there's going to be a big part underwater. And this is one that I do a detailed sketch of in the upgraded bonus resources. But you're going to notice where their legs are. Now, sometimes you can see a bird swimming like this if you're at an aquarium, like the Monterey Bay Aquarium. They have these water habitats that you can look through the glass and you can see the bird above and below water. And I always suggest people go to natural history museums and aquariums, botanical gardens, to try to sketch plants and animals in the field and at the museums, because it's really helpful. So again, for example, you can see these kind of the under part of the bird when you're at an aquarium that has birds, again, like the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which I actually interned at when I was studying marine biology way back in the 80s. But you'll notice here, well, you can't notice it till you see the next slide, but the legs are in the middle in the duck group called the dabbling ducks. And so they are able to walk better on land, like the earlier photo I showed you. Whereas what we call the diving duck, like this fulvous duck, their legs are really far back. And some of these ducks can barely even walk because they would be really lopsided. They can't balance. And so they spend all of their lives in water. Okay, and then of course, when you're drawing, it's fun to notice reflections and draw those, And those are going to look really different depending on if it's a cloudy or a sunny day, or if there's ripples in the water. Like in this case, it's a fairly calm day, so the reflection is almost a mirror image. But if it was a rougher day in the wintertime, or if you're out watching like sea ducks, then there'd be more waves and it wouldn't look the same. Also, your reflection, notice it will look different if you're down towards the level of the duck, like sitting at a small sandy beach on a lake. If you're low, that reflection is going to look different than if you're a little bit higher. In this case, I'm about 3 feet above taking a photo looking down. So just notice how those reflections are going to really differ. And of course, the richness of the colors are going to differ as well, whether it's a shady day or a sunny day. And you're going to want to get to notice the ducks as they're dabbling. Again, we'll talk more about dabbling versus diving ducks in a few moments. But again, you want to be patient and watch. But you're going to see them doing this for quite a while. So it's good to practice identifying the ducks when you can only see their lower half, right? Okay. And then looking at the head, again, we were talking about those field marks and what to notice. And ducks are going to look really different, especially if they're herbivorous, or if they're omnivorous, or if they're piscivorous, which are fish eating, right? So like a duck like this, which is mainly herbivorous, is going to have one kind of bill compared to if it's something like a grebe, which dives, or a coot, which is omnivorous, or like loons, which dive for fish as well. And then notice those big, fat, cute cheeks. And so if you're looking at something for a while, hopefully you'll really look at it from the front and notice these mirror images with these big fat cheeks, and how this eye is kind of in that valley between the cheek and the forehead. And then that really helps, because then when you see it to the side, you'll really notice this cheek is casting a shadow under the neck here, because it's so big and full. Okay, again, kind of like a chipmunk that's been eating a bunch of peanuts at the park. So it's always good to really be patient and watch animals from all different angles, so that when you do sketch it, you really can understand its three-dimensional structure. Because if you were just seeing this photo, you might not notice and really give emphasis to that shadow around this big cheek, compared to if you'd seen it and observed it like this, right? And then another great book I wanted to mention, besides those Peterson field guides and the David Allen Sibley guides, is this Manual of Ornithology. If you're really serious about learning about birds, this is a great book to have. And so this is just an example of how they show different feet types of different kinds of ducks. So like the mallard duck, they call it palmate. The gannet, which is a sea duck, they call it totipalmate. Semi-palmated sandpipers are semi-palmate, and that's why they get their name. And then grebes have these really weird lobate legs. So it's really helpful to have these books, because again, the more you understand anatomy of a species you want to draw, whether it's a bird or a fish or amphibian, reptile, mammal, the better you'll be at drawing it. So Karen asks, who is the author? Let me just put this really close there, or you can take a screenshot. So Noble Proctor and Patrick Lynch. And yeah, it's got lots of really, really beautiful, detailed illustrations, including the whole skeleton, which also helps you to draw it more realistically. Okie dokie. Let's get going. We do have to get going so that we can start sketching. Tell me if you're watching live in the chat box, if you're ready with some your journal and your sketchbook. We'll start that pretty soon. So yeah, anyway, and notice those cute little feet. And again, notice the duck butts and their shapes. Another thing to really notice in terms of a field mark to ask yourself, it's a classic thing that waterfowl folks, including hunters, ask themselves when they're trying to identify is where's the white? So I'm going to show you some pictures, and all of these are within the diving duck group. And again, I'll give you some more tips on the difference between diving and dabbling ducks. But I just want you to notice right now kind of how similar they are, but differences as well. So here we've got the bufflehead and the hooded merganser. They both have this big triangle of white on their head, but it's slightly different. Now, a lot of times, especially in the winter, or when ducks are far away or you don't have binoculars, you can't see really closer details. But you can see the white. It often is very obvious shape. Now, lots of waterfowl kind of are plain colored. They might be pied, which is black and white. They might have some various browns and oranges on them and little hints of blue or something. But often, you know, they're really subtle coloration. So it's kind of hard to see sometimes. But those white really stand out. So here you can see the difference. Even though they both have this white triangle on their head, the hooded merganser has an edge of black. And then also some different white triangles here compared to the bufflehead, which is all white at the bottom. And if you see them up close, you're really lucky to see that beautiful eye. A lot of waterfowl have a beautiful eye. Here's another example. Speaking of eyes, you can see this cheek that's white, but it's a different shape, okay? So you might not notice the purple in the barrow's head or the green in the common golden eye, again, because of lighting. But that shape of that white in front of their cheek is more obvious, and they've got other markings on their body that are white as well. Here's another one that's pretty subtle. The canvasback and redhead, they're not bright white, but kind of more vermiculated. And notice the difference in that cast, or not the cast shadow, the reflection. How well you can see it in the canvasback, but not so well in the redhead, depending on the direction of the light and how turbid the water is. Okay, so that was just a few examples. Okay, so Karen's ready to sketch. Let's do some sketching practice. First, I just want to show you a couple of handouts. And again, if you're upgraded to the paid version of this workshop with all the downloadable resources, this is one of the resources that you get to download. And so I always have people think about these 6 steps of blocking in your basic shapes. And as you're doing that, thinking of the proportions, the relative proportions of like the head to the body, thinking about what structures are aligned to each other, noticing negative shapes like the shape between these legs, angles, for example, of the bill, and flow lines, or kind of imagining how your pencil would be flowing over the bird, just like water flowing over boulders in a river. And a few more things that you probably couldn't see in that handout was holding your pencil really lightly and loosely. Keep that pencil moving, especially when you're out in the field. And in general, when I'm doing these sketching demonstrations, I kind of try to prepare pretend that we're out in the field. So we're going to keep it moving because those ducks aren't going to sit around forever. They might get flushed by a predator or a dog or people or hunters, and they're gone. So avoid erasing, especially till the very end when you've got all your proportions, your field marks down. Always glancing back and forth frequently between your sketch and your page. So don't spend all your time, getting in the weeds and working on your drawing. You want to be looking and draw, look, draw, like that. Okay. And then, really focus on the process rather than the product, and understanding that if you draw something, even if it ends up looking like a stick figure, that doesn't matter, because what you've put into your brain from looking at it long enough to draw, that's what helps you to remember it and to help you identify it in the future. And of course, always have fun. That's the most important thing. There's lots of more terrible things happening in this world that we can worry about, and we don't have to worry about if our drawing is pretty or not. Okay. Okay. Oh, wait. Oh, my alarm's going off. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I'm on time, and I am. So we're going to do this waterfowl warm up. So this is a pre-recorded video because it's hard for me to draw and teach at the same time. And I'm not in my studio room right now. So I've pre-recorded this. And so this is the first one we're going to draw. Isn't he cute? Look at that big, huge bill. So this is a shoveler. So again, before we start drawing, well, I'm not going to draw. I'm just going to talk you through it. And again, if you have upgraded to the paid version of this, you have this downloadable photos that you can use. Now I can leave my picture there, right? I'm not in the way. Okay. So just noticing a few things. First, I always work on the silhouette first, and then I might indicate the field marks. Okay. But you always want to get that silhouette first. And you kind of notice on this one how this bill is just giant, right? It's kind of related to the way it feeds. So that bill is longer than the whole depth of the head. The rest of the body is pretty much like most other waterfowl. And he's got kind of a medium length neck the way he's sitting right now. And then just that arched body with some of the feathers kind of up and disheveled because maybe he just landed or is going to take off. Okay, so let's start this one. I think each of these drawings are quick, like 2 or 3 minutes to pretend that we're out in the field. Okay. So let's go. And I am using my favorite just pencil. So light and loose, that circle for the head, triangle for the bill, neck, the line for the water, and then the arch of the back. And then those primary wing feathers kind of up. So now I'll go back. So this is how I generally do it. I will get some more details and I'll start drawing a little darker. The northern shoveler. Trying to find it here on the app. Oh, there he is. So they kind of shovel. So as I'm going along with my colored pencil, I'm just really focusing on that bill because that's really diagnostic, is that pretty big bill compared to other waterfowl. And that eye is pretty small and high on the head. And then there's an arch to the neck, a couple angles there. and then a pretty straight line because the water is really flat. And then the feathers are kind of disheveled. And some of them are sticking up. That's the primary flight feathers. And you don't have to make that exact because they can be lots of different angles with their behavior. They forage by sifting through the water, often swimming in spirals. And I could play the sound. Oops, nope. Could you hear that playing? And that was the female. Northern shoveler. Now you notice that I'm differentiating between the upper bill and the lower bill, and often you don't see much of the lower bill, especially with this guy. The front of the upper bill kind of overlaps the lower bill. And I'm making some strong angles there, so try not to over round things. Try to notice where there's an angle, like that angle where the cheek meets the neck. And as you see, as I'm going around each time, I push a little harder. And now I'm just showing some of the edges of the field marks. Those different edges between like the green head and neck and the white breast. And there's also some beautiful rusty brown colors. I made my water a little bit wiggly, but the water he's sitting in is very calm. So that could have been a straight line. And that big round cheek that, again, if we saw him from the front, would puff out like a chipmunk. And a little tiny tip to that bill. And then since the bird is sitting here a few more minutes, I'll keep going a little bit. But in general, I stop. Oops, sorry. Okay. Now this is the next one. Look at it first. This is the greater, yeah, there it is. This is the greater white-fronted goose. And I put that in the chat box there. So really different proportions. And of course, this one's out of the water. So you can see the whole lower part of its chest and abdomen. And it's very strong legs. These geese have very strong legs. Okay, let's sketch this one. And then there's two more after that. Again, each of them are just 2 or 3 minutes to practice sketching quickly. Same idea. I'll kind of start with the circle of the head and get a bill, much smaller, an eye, neck. I'll play the call here. So this is a medium-sized goose with extensive range across the northern hemisphere. On adults, note the bright orange legs. So this isn't really quite an adult. White face and variable amount of black splotching on the belly. Bill color varies from orange to pinkish. Immatures lack a white face and black on the belly and have a duller orange legs. They're superficially similar to domestic barnyard geese, but smaller without the enormous pot-bellied appearance. Breeds in the tundra and taiga of Canada and Alaska. Winters in fields. So again, these are kind of birds that you'll see down here in the northern hemisphere in the wintertime. So as I'm going over and firming up, you see I'm not doing any erasing. I am just doing some corrections as I go to the proportions. Again, don't over round. Notice that sharp angle between the neck and the back, and that angle at the cheek and the neck, and negative shape between the legs. And then just making some just quick differentiation between the different major groups of feathers, the feather tracks, as we call them. Again, not erasing. I'm just kind of changing my proportions a bit. Kind of looking to see what I did here, thinking that I got that chest a little bit wrong. Trying to emphasize the leg that's in front and closer to us. And the other one. And then just one more time, differentiating a little bit between the feather groups. And again, the longer an animal stays around, the more details you can get. But that's close enough. And just emphasizing that cheek again. And if I was going to shade it, I would put some shadow underneath to emphasize it's got that big fat cheek. You see how I'm not worried about erasing. I'm just correcting. The more and more that I look, the more I'm noticing things. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to move into the families, a little bit about them. And then we are going to do some more sketching from the videos that I shot in the field. So let's see, where are we? Want to make sure I've got everything here. Okay. So hopefully you're back. All righty. So we're going to start with, there's 4 families. Again, we're not talking about all the birds that you can see in aquatic situations, because we're not talking about kingfishers, we're not talking about flamingos or anything else. We're mainly talking about what they call the waterfowl, which technically, that name is a name that hunters would use for the species that you could hunt and sometimes eat, that lived in lakes and rivers. And so, anyway, there's plenty of those. But again, the kind of things we talk about noticing can be useful no matter what kind of bird you're trying to identify. Okay, so hopefully you're all back from your break. So, yeah, we're going to go from the smallest to the largest family. Okay, so one are the loons. And let me see, do I have another picture of those? Sorry, I'm trying to find my mouse. Oh, there's another one. So there's only 5 species. They're quite rare and elusive. You may have heard their call before. It is just the most gorgeous, haunting call. And again, if I type that in here, I can do this common loon, and I can do the sound. Let's see if you can tell me if you can hear the sound. That just gives me shivers. I just love that sound. It almost sounds like a wolf. Yes, Karen, you could hear that. So there are only 5 species. And so, unless you live in some northern areas, you're probably not going to see them. Um, they are piscivorous, so they're divers. They dive for fish, and generally are up in the Canada and Alaska breeding. So you don't see them that often. And again, there's only 5: the red-throated, Pacific common, and yellow-billed, and Arctic loon. The next family is really diverse, and there's only one part of it that are what we'd really kind of call waterfowl. Um, and that's the group, or no, sorry, the next, yeah, no, this is a pretty big one. Sorry, I should go. No, let's just do this. Okay, this is the third largest group. And so this family, the Railidae, includes some really, again, elusive birds that are often in the reeds, that are hiding, and that are very camouflaged, like rails. But coots and gallinules are more kind of like waterfowl shaped. Oh, hi, Kat. I'm so glad you have come in for a few moments. You can watch the replay. And yeah, you say loons are making a comeback in New York. Wonderful. Okay. And so they have these, it's a really, like I said, it's a really big family. There's like 150 species worldwide, and they're omnivorous. But there's only a few, again, in that family that we'd call waterfowl, and those are more like the coots, but also the gallinules. And they have these really interesting feet if you ever get a chance to look at them while they're walking. They're omnivorous, so they can eat vegetation in the water, aquatic vegetation, but they might also be eating crustaceans or small fishes or crawdads or mussels. And that's another really beautiful one. the gallinule, and they spend a lot more time walking around on the reeds, and the water lilies have a really interesting type of face. And moorhens, also, they have that interesting kind of leathery, waxy looking forehead. So that's something that's common in this family. Next family, which is the second smallest, are the grebes. And again, if I go here, they, if we look for those on the app, we've got 22 species, so it's pretty small group again. They have this really beautiful mating dance, and they make a nest that floats. And they're divers, so they have their legs far back on their body. And let's see, some of the species include the Western and Clarks, like we see here. Again, really similar coloration. There's also the pied, the horned, the eared, and the red-necked. Okay. And then, so here's a picture of their beautiful mating dance and their mating rituals. And again, as we're going through these, tell me if you've ever seen any of these. Like Kat, have you seen those loons in New York? The only time I saw a loon was unfortunately when I was volunteering at a rescue center and there was an oil spill and some came in with their feathers dirtied by oil and we had to wash them. And there is another picture from that wonderful book that shows their lobes of their toes flare out to make a wide paddle as the bird pushes back against the water to propel themselves forward. So really strong swimmers. And then the main group, the largest group of waterfowl, the group you usually think of when you're thinking of waterfowl is the Anatidae. And that includes the ducks and geese. And yes, Karen said you've seen grebes and coots and of course mallards. Yeah. There's about 174 species. They're mostly herbivores, except a few like mergansers who are fishers. They're cosmopolitan, so they are the biggest and most diverse group that's found on all the continents. Yeah. And so here's where we finally get to that phrase I've been chatting about and giving you some more details. The diving ducks versus the dabbling ducks. And some waterfowl folks and hunters also call the dabbling ducks puddle ducks because they're sometimes in smaller areas. And so you see that picture again, comparing them that I showed you before. The diving ducks have those legs way far back on their body to help them swim and dive. Whereas the puddle ducks or dabblers have them more in the middle. So the divers, they have a large wing to body size. Their legs are, or no, wait, I got those two mixed up. Oh, no, I did get those two mixed up. Sorry, I have those labels mixed up. Yeah, so the dabbling ducks, I have that. I need to fix that. These are the dabbling ducks. So like the mallard is a dabbling duck. Legs are central, colorful speculum often. They take off straight up. They sit high in the water. They walk on land easily. The toes aren't lobed. The body is more horizontal. They can feed on land and they dabble or surface feed for food. Whereas the diving ducks, that's over here, the legs are farther back and they need more of a running takeoff. They sit lower in the water, as you see right here. The body is kind of more vertical, quick wing beats, diving for food. So sorry, I got that mixed up. Anyway, And many dabbling ducks are sexually dimorphic, which means they really look different, like your basic mallard we've been looking at and talking about, but also these beautiful pintails. And again, if you upgraded to the paid version of this, you can see my whole workshop I did on the pintails that was in collaboration with the conservation group called Birds Caribbean. Okay. And within those two groups, you're mainly going to see a lot more dabbling ducks, probably where you live. If you live in a lot of North America, and just there's going to be more of those in bigger flocks generally as well. So here's just a few examples: the shovelers, pintails, teals, widgeons. And again, just kind of thinking about where the white is, like we talked about earlier, those key characteristics. And again, when you're watching a group of birds, noticing who is the more drab female, who is she hanging out with? And that will help you to identify her in another time when the male happens to not be around. And yeah, this is a really great example here, the shovelers, where you see that female has that exact same shape of her head and bill, which is really different from like a widgeon or a teal, right? Those bills and the male and female, that's how you can tell them apart. So always practice looking for a drab female that's near a more easily identified colorful male, and then kind of double checking that she has the same silhouette, and then practice drawing her and identifying her when the male isn't around. Okay, here's one of my favorites. I was actually able to see a wood duck a while back in Southern Oregon on a different watershed than I'm at right now. And they just have some just amazing color patterns. And again, it can feel really intimidating to try to draw a bird like this that has so many color patterns, but just start with that basic silhouette. The basic proportions. They've got a pretty small bill. And this male has kind of like these things that look like sort of wings that are coming off of the head from those feathers. But just try to get that first. And then if you've got that silhouette first, then you can add some of these field marks. And again, noticing where the white is. They have really interesting shapes to their white, including this sort of like these two fingers that go up from their neck. And the white on the edge here and the vertical bar here. Yeah, swans and geese are in this family as well. And we drew a goose. The ruddy ducks, aren't they cute? Now notice that blue bill. That is certainly a good field mark. Okay, so now we're going to do some more sketching practice, but this time it's not going to be you watching me draw. We are going to look at some videos that I filmed for you, and I will try to draw along with you. So I suggest getting your sketchbook. Again, this is sort of the idea of doing these quick field sketches. So I'll have my field sketchbook here. And I'm going to find a page here. And you can use any material you're comfortable with or try a few different ones. Usually in my field kit. Oh, just a sec. Here's one of my kits I carry is this waterproof bag with my sketchbook in it and my watercolors and a couple different pencils and pens. So that's what I'll take with me out in the field. And depending on how I feel, I might use a waterproof pen. I might use a sketching pencil, though not so frequently. But my favorite, and that's why this is so short, is these Prismacolor Very Thins. And so they have a thinner lead that stays sharp longer. And that's what I was using to demonstrate earlier when we did the shoveler and the goose. So tell me in the chat box what kind of material you're going to use. I could try sharpening this. Once these get really short, you can get extenders for them. Or if you're desperate and don't have one, sometimes what I'll do if I have a favorite pencil like this is I'll just tape it onto a longer pen or pencil with some masking tape to make it longer like that. And let me see. No, I better not move that. But anyway, I'll try. Okay, so who's ready? And Karen says you have a mechanical pencil and colored pencils. Yeah. So, mechanical pencils are generally what I use to demonstrate in the studio. But, they are going to smear, although sometimes I will start with a mechanical pencil. And once I get my basic silhouette, I will add some, firm it up with some colored pencil or my permanent pen. Okie dokie. Maybe I'll use the pen because that pencil's too short and I don't have any tape nearby. Okay, where were we? Okay, so these are some basic Canada geese. Almost everybody's got geese, so I thought it would be easy to sketch these. They have that really characteristic black head and neck with that white kind of like upside down saddle on their cheek. And then the rest of their body is just kind of that arch. So I would just try to suggest keeping your sketches small because this will be a video. You'll notice that they will come into the same position several times. So you can just start a small sketch. And then when they come back to that position, you can firm it up, going back to that sketch. So you might have 5 or 6 sketches. Again, kind of like my example here of deer. I was sketching these deer the other day in both the Deschutes County area and down in Southern Oregon. So that's the idea, is just staying light and loose and trying several sketches. Okay, so I'm going to start playing this. And generally, I suggest you kind of keep looking more at the video than you do your drawing, almost like a somewhat blind contour drawing. I'm sketching along with you. So you'll see side views, 3/4 views, front views, back views. So don't get in the weeds with all those patterns of their feathers. Just try to get that basic shape of the body first. And then if they're sitting for a while, like this one happens to be, you can add some more of that. Oh, there's a nice back view. It's almost like heart-shaped, their top of their rump. I'm drawing alongside you here. I haven't left you. Oh, some mallards are photobombing. Okay. So let's see. What can I show you? So I just got some quick ones so far like that. Didn't get very far. Of course, you can always watch the replay. I've got another set here. Just a sec. Here's another set. These guys now got the view of their rump. And they're paddling legs, which is kind of cute. You see, if you watch something long enough, they'll continue. Oh, sorry, I'm not showing it to you. Wait, let me get back to that. I wasn't showing it. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, you can't see the video. There we go. These guys are a little bit farther away. That's a little bit shaky cam. And they're doing different things in the first video. But they keep coming back again to the same position. So you can work on the same sketch. So next time you're out in the field, try filming. I was just using my basic camera. This was actually my 7-year-old camera last year. The first video was this year's camera, but you don't need a very fancy camera. And if you can sit really steadily and zoom in, it's amazing what you can get. There are pros and cons to having technology. Now look at that one. Isn't that one beautiful? This one is a stock image, I think. I'm going to freeze that for a minute for you to just work on that a little bit more. Although we already did do that greater white-fronted goose before. But here you can show a little bit more of the field marks, which is basically that white saddle on the face and the black neck. And the white rump. And remember, there are different reasons to draw. One of them is just to draw to help you learn to identify and notice field marks. And another reason might be to, like, make a pretty picture. And so you don't need a lot of detail just to help you learn the field marks. So like that's the one right now, that field mark of that white saddle on their cheek and the black head and then the white rump. That's all you need really right there. Tell you it's a Canada goose, right? Okay, let me see. Where are we at? Sorry, I'm gonna get a. Oh, wait. So, okay, here we are. Sorry. So, here's some mallard ducks, and they're swimming around pretty fast, but that's good practice for you. And I could always pause it a couple times too, but let's look at those. Now, this one you can actually see this black arch over here. And what that is the edge of my binoculars. And I'll show you how I did that uh, when we're done. So let's just watch this, but that's what you'll notice. And you'll see that big fat cheek. Here you see the male and female really nicely. And the nail on the tip of the bill. And again, the dabbling ducks are able to walk really well on land, and the divers can't. And just notice how strong those feet are in proportion compared to a songbird or especially a hummingbird. So shape of a animal's body has a lot to do with its lifestyle and habitat. So again, just keep that pencil moving. Oops, sorry. Let me play that again. You see how the different lighting, shady versus cloudy, really makes a difference in the color as well. I'm still here. I'm just sketching. I'm going to pause that one. That's a really nice view. You see the bill, it kind of arches. It's kind of like there's a line from the eye down to this arch in the bill, sort of like a valley, and then up to the other eye. So that's kind of an interesting thing to notice. And then you also see his big fat cheeks. And again, it's nice when you have the female nearby so you can learn how to identify her when the male's not around. So I'm going to work on this male's head and that cool bill. And those big fat cheeks. Running out of paper here. I think this is the last video. And then if anybody wants to come on live, if you're watching the live version, I'll invite you up in a moment. I'm just going to work on this male's bill. It's kind of interesting. I'm noticing that those big cheeks. Just paused it there. If you're wondering, just to get a little bit better view. Okay. All righty. That's the close-up of him. And then there's some of my other sketches. Okie doke. Let me see. I think that's just about, let's see, the right. Oh yeah, I just did want to mention one more time the Cornell Lab for Ornithology Merlin app. Very useful and helpful. And also, yeah, I'm gonna right. Remember to visit your resources page for those of you who paid for the upgrade. And if you still want to upgrade and get all those downloadable handouts and the extra videos that I share, tip videos from the field and handouts like the 6 steps roadmap to sketching success, you can get all that. Now I'm going to copy and paste. As usual, I love to have people join me on screen. I've been talking to myself here. So I did put a link in the chat box under my name. It says StreamYard.com. And if you click on that and have audio and video capability, you can come up and say hi and ask a question or show your sketches. So before I had mentioned that that video had an oval at the edge. Well, that was from my binoculars, and it takes some practice. But if you have some binoculars and you have your phone, um, definitely takes practice. But you can hold your phone up to your binoculars very slowly. If you get the bird in the view of your uh, camera, and then bring it very slowly to your binoculars. And I usually put my the camera lens onto my left picture there, my left eyepiece, and I hold it, and then I press record. And it is amazing. It's a little bit shaky cam, but if you practice, you can get some much better video. Now, if you're lucky to be with a bird watching guide who has a spotting scope on a tripod, or if you're lucky enough to own one of those yourself, then that's a much easier way to get video of birds. But some of those videos I showed you were just from my phone. And I just kind of scrolled in to see them more clearly. Okay. Well, we're right on time. I was just wanting to keep us for about 90 minutes. And again, if you want to come up on screen, you can. Again, I have that streamyard.com. So let's see. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about waterfowl, and I hope you will get out to your local pond or river or lake and look for them. Again, winter is one of the best times of year because that's when these birds that are often far north breeding in the Arctic. They come down in large flocks and often in large mixed flocks. So that's really good practice for identifying. And even though it's cold, it's a good time to practice sketching outdoors and sketching in sometimes challenging weather. Although here today in Central Oregon, it's pretty nice weather. Thanks so much for joining me again today. Hope you had lots of fun and learned a lot, and keep working on those field sketches and keep looking for those waterfowl, especially in the wintertime. Take care. Bye-bye.